Well guys, this has been quite the week for me and a ton of people across the Pacific Northwest. Seattle just had a bomb cyclone hit, which I guess is like a low pressure system which just rips just super high speed winds across the mountains. And there's nothing that stresses me out more than having high winds in an old growth forest where both of my Airbnbs are. I'm gonna show you all the damage, the trees that went down, and how we're gonna be preparing for this winter. Not only against high winds, but also how I'm preventing from freezing temperatures, freezing water lines, and just causing headaches throughout the season. But when they do hit, you wanna make sure that your water is running so that guests don't have their stay disrupted. So first at the Cedar Hollow, we had this 6, maybe 7-inch tree come down. It actually hit the railing and it didn't seem to really bend anything. And honestly, we lucked out that it didn't hit the roof line or anything. And the roof seemed to be holding water out at both of the homes. So fortunately, none of the roofs were damaged because that turns into a lot bigger deal with water problems and all that stuff. So first thing in the morning after the storm, I came out here. I had to cut multiple trees out of the driveway. There was like a couple 8-inch trees laying across the driveway. But then I walked back to the Cedar Hollow and saw this. This giant tree, you can't really see it, but it's leaning up and it knocked out my string lights there. And it actually just uprooted this entire thing, which just shows you how strong these winds are here. So at some point I'm gonna have to cut this out. It's kind of hanging up on the string lights there, but I think it's gonna be all right. And then I also had to climb this tree and rehang the lights because they were hanging down all the way across the forest floor when this big guy came crashing down. Fortunately, all the guests were nice and safe at both of the homes because I do annual maintenance on all the trees immediately around it. So I guess I don't really thin out the forest too much, but like, I don't know if you remember the video where we thinned this maple here. I was thanking myself so much for making that decision to top some of those so that those don't come crashing down on the Cedar Hollow. The storm that hit was pretty gnarly. It had almost 700,000 people out of power. I still don't have power, and I'm just in like, I'm only on the outskirts of Seattle, and it's been 4 days that we still don't have power. But what I'm doing to future-proof myself is put power banks in all of my homes. So this video is sponsored by Blue Eddy. These backup power banks are lifesavers in storm situations. So as an Airbnb host, this investment can save you thousands just in one storm season. This Blue Eddy inverter and power bank is huge for making sure that my guests have power the whole time, because you've got a whole array of 110 outlets, 220, 30 amp, like this thing's pretty impressive for how compact it is. Okay, so all you have to do is hit this power button here to turn on the battery bank. So this is where all the batteries are. This is the big heavy unit. And then this is the inverter, which takes the power from the battery and flips it over to all of these, the normal like car cigarette lighters for DC output. And then you also got a big 30 amp 220 right here, which is great for powering big stuff. But for my case, I just want to have this in the closet here at the Cedar Hollow. So if power ever does go out, guests are able to charge their phones. I'm able to plug it into the internet because I have T-Mobile home internet. And I also got a little standalone heater so guests can plug it into one of these 20 amp 110 plugs and run a heater to get them through for the few hours that the power is out, if it does go out. Today, I'm gonna be underneath the house insulating all the water lines with these guys, zip tying them off and putting heat trace. Also, it's got a whole bunch of waterproof seals. You see all the water sitting on top? This thing's a little trooper. So what we do is we turn on AC output. We turn that on, so that flips on all the AC plugs. Plug that in. You can see we got light. So we're gonna be running this underneath the house while I lay on my back and try and film this. It's gonna be kind of tricky to film, but I think I can make it happen. So we got this heat trace. And what this guy does is I'm gonna run this on the main 3/4 inch line and zip tie it to the line. I'll link all this stuff down below too. But how it works is it uses this thermostat, and when it hits 37 degrees, it then kicks on a little resistor, which starts to provide heat in these cables to keep all your water lines above freezing. And then what I'm also gonna do is wrap this in this insulation around the water line. So it'll be run this along the water line, wrap this foam tubing, zip tie it all together, duct tape it together. And then we should have a freezing temperature proof crawl space. So let's get to it. It's always a little scary coming in here for the first time in a long time, because I never know what animals might have crawled in here. So fingers crossed nothing's living in here. Okay, don't judge my mess under here. Also looks like some of that bad insulation fell over. Let's go push that back up. Okay, so this is the main water supply line. It comes in from 2 feet underneath the ground. We gotta insulate this whole guy, and then also insulate any red and blue piping. I also got some more mouse blocks in case any mice try and sneak in here. Overall, looks like it's been holding up pretty well under here. So let's go get all the supplies in. First up, let's get our heat trace going. I did think about this. I gave myself an extra outlet over by the septic pump that I'm gonna be able to plug this into. What I'm gonna do is plug in this heat trace here. You can see the little light flips on that shows that this guy is working. And then this is the 3/4 inch main supply line, so I'm just gonna run it all along that and zip tie it to it all the way down. Also, I know it looks like I'm heat tracing a hot line, and I'm only heat tracing the cold line, which this red one actually ran out of blue pipe. So this is, in fact, my cold line. But I ran out and had extra red, so I just used red and put white tape on it so I knew it was cold. Also, another super nice thing about that Blue Eddy power bank is that say we lose power for a long period of time and it's really cold outside, all I have to do to make sure that my lines don't freeze is just run an extension cord under here, plug in the heat trace, and that way I know that this line is getting heat. Look, I even wrote cold on it just so I didn't forget. And you can see all the white tape going all the way down. That means this guy's the cold. Okay, let me show you what I got here. So we got the heat trace going all the way down where the water supply comes in. It's following that, and it runs all the way down on that main 3/4 inch line. So we actually have it where it stubs back up to the whole house shutoff and where it comes back down and wraps all the way down there. So our cold water line should be freeze proof. Now we're gonna go wrap it in all of those rolls of insulation so that it sort of keeps all the heat in. So that is the finished product with the main water supply line. Actually, tighten that up a little bit. So we've got heat trace on there too. This is just a second measure, making sure that we absolutely don't freeze. It's frozen pipes, losing money with refunds, and not being able to, and having to cancel bookings. So I got all the water lines, both hot and cold wrapped. You can see them all here. That goes up to the shower. Those two go up to the shower. This guy goes up to the toilet. I gotta keep going that way and then go all the way down to the kitchen over there. Okay, and there we go. All of the lines are now officially covered. Set out all my little mouse traps here, so hopefully if any mice sneak in when it starts getting colder, we end them. All right, let's see how this Blue Eddy held up. So it still says it's at 80%, which I know we were somewhere between 100 and 80. We're probably at 90. It definitely wasn't full when we started, but that is really impressive. We were just running this thing for like probably 3 or 4 hours straight. So another really cool thing about this setup is that you're able to expand more battery packs. So this says battery expansion pack right there, and you can connect more whips to all these. You can stack batteries, so if you want more backup storage, you can just put a couple of them together and then it all outputs through this inverter here. It also, if you want to take this thing camping or something like that to have power deep in the mountains, you can connect this to solar panels. So it'll be able to feed the battery with solar panels. It can be off grid for a really long time and still have power. So for our first trial of using this in a real life situation, I'm pretty stinking impressed. I'm just saying a prayer that that is the worst storm that we get all winter. They're saying it's probably not going to be, we're supposed to get a ton of snow this winter, but I feel like they never really know. Thanks to Blue Eddy for sponsoring this video. This thing is a game changer. If you're an Airbnb host, you definitely want to have one of these in your closet for guests so they don't complain about not having power if you do have an outage. Plus, it's just a nice thing for hosts to offer, just so that if you have a guest that's worried about a potential storm, you can say, hey, I got this power backup thing. There's heaters in the closet. If you ever do lose power, I've literally had a couple messages like that already in the last couple weeks. People inquiring about the storms rolling through. So okay, I lied. I didn't leave the power bank at at the Cedar Hollow. I actually ended up having to bring it home because with the power being out for the last 5 days, I had to use the power bank to edit the bulk of the video. We just got the power back on, but for the last couple days, I've been having to edit the video on this power bank, and it's been getting me through. So let me show you a few other cool things about the Blue Eddy power bank. Okay, so they have a really nice mobile interface. We're able to see exactly how charged it is and where all of your power is going. So you can see in this case, we have 25 watts DC going to my iPhone. So it's charging up the phone right there. You're also able to turn on all the AC outlets. So you heard it just click on right there, and now all the AC plugs are running. So not only can I charge my phone with the USB-C port that's right in the front here, but you also have these really convenient 15-watt wireless chargers. So you put them right over the chargers, and then boom, there you go. You can see how if you're hanging out at a campfire and everyone's just hanging out, you can throw your phones on top and you're all juiced up, ready for the next day's adventures of taking photos and stuff. Also, one of the biggest complaints I hear about battery banks is that they take so long to charge up, and just like electric vehicles, everyone says that's like the biggest downside to them is how fast they charge. So this battery bank actually can charge all the way up from 0 to 100 in 90 minutes, which is just wildly impressive. I think that's even faster than my iPhone can, which I thought iPhones charged fast, which is really nice because even if you have back-to-back storms where the power's only back up for a few hours, this thing will be able to be fully charged back up and will be able to provide whole home backup if that's what you're using it for. And you'll have a fully charged setup ready to power you through that next storm system. Plus, the versatility with charging this battery bank is unlike any other power bank I've seen before. It's crazy. You can charge this thing up with your car, with solar, with a normal like wall outlet plug. You can charge it with like AC and solar at the same time. So say the solar's not putting down enough, say the solar's not putting out quite enough energy, you're able to also plug it in at the same time to charge it twice as fast. So end of the day, this is like, it's got to be the most versatile charging power bank, like battery backup system. It can back up to your whole house if you add on all the expansion battery packs. It's just an all-around incredible system that I'm a big fan of. Super easy to use. The interface is super simple. And I also didn't even realize till now that you can have both DC and AC on at the same time. So you can have all these outlets powered with all of your DC outputs for like charging phones and stuff like that. Overall, I'm super impressed with this setup. I think I'll definitely be getting some of the battery expansion packs and seeing if we can potentially tie this into the Cedar Hollow's whole home backup system so that when the power does go on, it just automatically flips on and starts to provide full backup power to the home. So like stuff in the fridge doesn't go bad and stuff like that. Overall, blown away with the company. Cannot recommend this setup enough. I'm going to be keeping it out at the Cedar Hollow so that guests have all sorts of power backup in case power does go down, because we are in the middle of the forest and it is the storm season out here in the Pacific Northwest. So anyways, thank you guys so much for following along, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.